Good morning, afternoon, evening, night, wherever the fuck you are in the world. Welcome to Nerd Nation. I am your host, Jericho, also known as AJ. I have with me today D Jose 101 and
Yo,
Dead Zam talking,
How you doing?
otherwise known as the Mario 101. I mean, oh 01, excuse me. All right, we're here today to be discussing Undertaker, The Last Ride, chapters 4 and 5. There have been eventful news in these documentaries. It's one of the few looks that we get into a man that has taken his character extremely seriously throughout his career. So, any opening thoughts, guys, that we had about this? Not like obviously too depth, but just generally what we thought about the episode.
the fact that
Go
go
on.
ahead, Zach.
No, please go ahead. Go ahead,
Yeah,
Jose.
starting off like with how they picked up at the end of part 3 with the crown jewel thing. It was like, man, to think if Father Time didn't affect everybody, think what kind of match this would have been if it was like 1997, 1998. These four guys, four of the best workers of all time. Triple H tears his what was it like? I think pectoral muscle,
I think
like
it was his
almost
pack,
off the
yeah.
bone. Yeah,
Mhm.
tore his pec, and then Kane's mask comes off. Oh, it was a train wreck, man. It was like Shawn Michaels and Undertaker just had that attitude of, well, this sucked. And, now it's the cycle of Taker's got to redeem himself because, that's been the common theme of this documentary. Oh, I'm satisfied or, oh, I'm not, and now here we go again. It's Groundhog Day.
Mm-hmm. Zam?
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up that match. Sometimes matches can be a clusterfuck and be extremely entertaining as a clusterfuck, and that match was thoroughly enjoyable. Being in the setting of Saudi Arabia for a start made it intriguing. Having these four guys that combined to an age of over 200 years old was fascinating. Having a guy who hasn't wrestled in almost a decade, having two part-timers, and as Triple H once said about Kane, who's a mayor, I'm sure he's pretty much a part-timer too. And they're only part-timers, but they're like really way past their primes, and God knows how well they are affected in the ring. Having this match, oh God, like WWE was doing Saudi Arabia a disservice by not trying to offer them more modern stuff and having to go back to people who haven't, who wrestled 20 years ago when it was their prime. It was an absolute train wreck, thoroughly enjoyable, thoroughly fascinating. It's all rolled into one. It's one of those fucking things that you have to watch, even though it's fucked up. And I don't have to say any more than that.
Fair enough. Yeah, I feel like that was a good wrap up. Yeah. I mean, obviously, episode 4 was going to be a little less revealing than episode 5. I mean, episode 4 was fine. You really get to see him get that closure. You really get to see him, or well, not get it, but develop it. You really start to see the finalization of the decision making process, and just how he goes through it with his family and with the matches that he does in the episode. Alrighty then, and we're obviously getting our resident cheerleader, cousin Cheeto, telling us hello.
Woo!
Hello, cheats.
Of course,
Man of many names. Man of many, many names.
many names, the
And he
man of
wears
many
yeah.
aliases.
Yeah.
Exactly. All right. Well, I guess now that we've done general, let's go like specifically into episode 4. Is there anything from episode 4 that y'all thought was eye opening or a lot of that was just very appealing to you, or something that you were curious
Okay,
about, didn't know about before?
I-
Just
I'll,
something that
I'll
interested you.
I'll start. I mean, pretty much what makes episode 4, and I won't bring up episode 5, but just saying what it correlates with is that it's more about Taker today than it was for yesteryear. The previous episode felt a bit more nostalgic, and I didn't really want that. And I wanted more out of my Undertaker episodes, and this gave us it. It gave us more of Undertaker today. So a lot of the shit he's having to go through. Obviously, the Saudi Arabia shenanigans is still quite fresh in the memory. It's quite recent to what Undertaker is today, and that's what I liked about it. Right up to Madison Square Gardens as well, and you know, that's really what I want to see. I don't want to go down a trip with memory lane. I want to see what he is now. I want to know who he is now and what his decisions are now and what the next step is in his life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Fair enough. Jose?
I thought when they were talking about like how he lived as the Undertaker character, I thought that was the most fascinating part of
Mm-hmm.
the episode for me when it was,
Yeah, yeah,
you know,
yeah.
the depths that he would go to stay as the Undertaker. Like he would wear black everywhere he went, and people wouldn't approach him because he was that like mythical figure, so to speak. And I thought that was really interesting. How they also talked about like everybody in the company would try to get him to break character because he was the one dude that was fucking constant. He would
Mm-hmm.
not sell shit no matter what people tried to do to him just to get him to crack. He would never crack. He never broke character. Well, at least up until recently, but we'll get into that.
Mm-hmm.
No, I want to say this though. I mean, even though he might not laugh and stuff, for me, when he became American Badass, that was him breaking character. You know, that was Mark Calloway. You know,
Yeah.
Mark Calloway extended into this WWE persona.
Mm-hmm.
So we got a lot of the real Mark Calloway as the American Badass. And even when he went back to being Dead Man, there was times when you saw him being Mark Calloway when he was at the UFC match for Brock Lesnar. You know, coming to, you know, remember? Do you remember that, Jose? You
I
remember
remember
that?
that. Yeah.
Yeah, and he was just being himself, and he's been interviewed a few times, being himself. So, you know, like this documentary is not necessarily showing us who Mark Calloway is. We've already known that he already existed, but it's giving us more depth into him. That's for sure.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Um, and yeah, to agree with what you were saying, it definitely goes into that. I like the point that you made about Mark Calloway and the Undertaker. They talked a lot about that in the following episode in the finale. Um, but what I really thought was interesting. Oh, I'm sorry. And you said that he broke character with the American Badass. It's interesting that you consider it that way because he necessarily didn't. Um, in the episode, I honestly can't remember if it was 4 or 5, but in one of these episodes, he goes into that and he goes in depth and he says, you know, during the time I had basically, to long story short, he said I had played this gimmick out and needed some refreshing in this environment in the 2000s and in the Attitude Era. I needed to refresh this. I needed to give it more life, and he considered it kind of a drawing back. So it was interesting to hear your perspective that you feel like it just got rid of the gimmick altogether. Like that was actually Mark Calloway
No,
rather than.
not totally. I do remember that was episode 5. I do remember him saying all that, but I think for him to actually create a new gimmick was a lot harder than people envisioned. So why not just
Mhm.
put a lot of his real self into the gimmick? Because he
Yeah,
liked his motorcycles. He's he's a biker. You know,
yeah,
he's
yeah.
a man's man and all that shit. You know what I mean? And so that
You
goes that
uh,
yeah. So if he's going to do something naturally, yeah, then do
Mhm.
that. You know, and obviously it's evolved into this hybrid now. What we have now, which is elements of everything. You know, and but yeah, because you know the longer the badass went, the more human he was. You know, people almost
Mhm.
forgot that he was the dead man. He was just a biker now. And then
Mhm.
obviously he had the buried alive match with Vince McMahon.
You can't even get it out. You can't even get it out, can you?
Yeah, because
Oh man.
it was all types of shit. Because Vince McMahon previously to that had the first ever father versus daughter match. I mean, seriously, I'm sorry, I'm going on a tangent here. And you know, so I remember the promo about Undertaker being so pissed that he would fight his fucking daughter and shit, and all the other stuff that was going on in their feud. And then obviously Kane backstabs him and kills the Taker, and he cut. When Badass ended, everyone was clamoring for a dead man to come back. But I was actually gutted when Badass ended because
yeah.
for me, we're back to the cartoon again, as far as I was
Mhm.
concerned.
Mhm.
And I think Undertaker, as the dead man on his second stint, buried everybody. You know what I mean? He buried fucking everybody for a long time. He did, honestly, not giving a fucking inch to anybody. I mean, was it Vladimir? Is it Vladimir Kozlov was one of the few guys who got a
Yes.
surprise clean victory over him, which came
Yeah.
out of nowhere,
Yeah, he was
which
one of the
came
few
into
guys to beat Taker clean, and they tied it back.
and,
And look what they did with him.
and that actually made me hate the Taker for a while because I thought to myself, this guy's selfish as fuck. But everyone's going
I
on like he's
I
Santa
would
Claus.
yeah, exactly. I would like you, and it's funny that you say that because they literally call him Santa in the
Yeah,
in the documentary.
yeah, they did.
I want you to bring up that fact of how did you articulate that? You said that you hated Taker or that you didn't like for
When he
that
when,
period.
for a decent period when he came back as the dead man on his
Mhm.
second stint,
Yeah.
he was burying everybody. You know what I mean? He was beating anybody and
Hmm.
everybody, and it just and with his long ass entrances on SmackDown and shit, and it's a
That
fucking
took
2
3
hour.
days for him to get to the fucking
Yeah, I
ring.
mean we're not even talking a pay-per-view or WrestleMania. We're just talking a regular TV shows like Druid, the whole fucking caboodle. You know, it's just because he became like Hulk Hogan status now. You know what I mean?
But
You
here's
know,
the
it's just
thing, Undertaker did not want to go back to being dead man. He was vehemently against the idea. He was like, fuck this. I don't want to be the dead man. I like being who I am. I like being able
mhm.
to talk as myself. And I think Bruce Pritchard was one of those people that he told the story of like, Taker wasn't ready for that shit. He was against the idea. And I'm like, fuck yeah, I didn't want the dead man come back yet. I wasn't ready for that. I'm like, if they would have maybe waited a couple years or did the hybrid Undertaker much earlier, I probably would have liked Undertaker a lot more because I wasn't really a fan of the full departure from badass back to dead man. I'm like,
Hmm.
if you could have found a way to mix the two like you did recently, then I would have loved Undertaker. I think so. I
And
have to agree with Zam.
another thing as well, probably more as a dead man than the badass. He wasn't too bad sometimes as the badass, but I've never been a fan of Taker's promo skills. Never. I just think his dead man promo skills. They could put you to sleep. You know, they're the cure for fucking insomnia. They offer nothing. It's just stupid platitudes, making it sound like he's gonna bury you or put you in the ground or put you in the casket. Some sort of fucking verbal fucking rhymage that leads to that shit. You know, it's so mundane and crap and boring. He's never really going back and forth with people. He's just standing there alone with a spotlight, like he's about to fucking do a song. You know, it's just fucking stupid. I hate it, man. I fucking hate his promos. They're not that great. I don't want to go on a bitching fest about Undertaker here, but I'm just keeping it real. His promos suck. Always have.
Um, I mean, I will give you that his promos on a general stance are drawn out, but I won't say that they suck. They're different. They're really not to hype up the crowd. Those promos are really more to tell a story and to tell why. You know, they're not to get the crowd hyped up. They're not to get they're not to even really sell pay per view. Really, it's not even really to get more buys. It's really just to make it seem realistic and to make it seem like they have an actual gripe with each
Man,
other
he's,
when the
he's going
entire
on.
world
He's
obviously
going
knows that
on.
they don't.
He's going on like I'm gonna, when we meet in the ring, I
I'm
will
gonna
take
bury
your
you.
soul. I'm gonna take your soul and put you in the earth and make you rest in here. Gene Simmons. You know what I mean? Fucking hell, man. You know,
I don't know.
oh god, it's just
It's
like please.
classic. How can you not like it?
I'm just saying it's just become it's that cartoon I can't stand. You know, like I said
Yeah,
before,
yeah.
the best gimmicks of an extension of your own character, Rock, Stone Cold, even Triple H, they're all extensions of who they are. Same with the badass. You know, this and the entrances. At least when he's a badass, he's on his motorcycle, he's there in seconds. You know what I mean? You know, he's there in seconds
That's
after fucking
funny.
with 20 years. You know, he's already there. He's quicker on his motorcycle, man. You know, you should have a fucking horse or something if he's going to go to dead, man. You know, anyway, I just, sorry. I
No,
apologize.
you're fine. This is why we're here to discuss. Um, no, I mean, I don't feel that way. Obviously, the dude took way too fucking long to get on to the ring. I mean, way
Yep.
too fucking long. I think
Yeah,
anybody on planet Earth
really
would be able
acknowledge
to
that.
tell
I mean,
you that.
oh, man, I was a teenager. I was like, some of us got shit to do, man. I got to go to the mall this weekend. What the fuck are you doing? You're sitting here taking 3 days just to get to the ring. And then I turned 21. I'm like, this motherfucker finally made it to the ring. I aged like 5-6 years during that time. That's how slow he takes.
I know, yeah, I know.
But
But yeah, I mean,
Tito says he's the hardest worker in the business. Well, now
yeah,
he's only working
I
once a
probably,
year. He's not that hard, mate.
yeah, no, he's not the hardest anymore.
Not
Definitely not
anymore.
Yeah.
not
Not
the
You would
for
have said
hardest.
almost
maybe,
for about a decade.
yeah, if you would have
Yeah.
said maybe from like 1990 to about maybe 2000, I'd agree with you. But yeah, I don't know about that.
hmm
Not in today's times.
Um, as far as the American Badass, it was before my time as far as watching wrestling. I really got into it at the beginning of '07, the end of '06. So he was
Right.
definitely already into that dead man persona again. Um, so I really never had that juxtaposed perspective of those two. My first experience with it was actually, I'm pretty sure, like one of the Day of Reckoning games because I had the GameCube back in the day. So one of the Day of Reckoning games, and I was like, man, this is this is interesting. This is different. And like obviously at first I'm like, who the fuck is this? But it's the Undertaker. So but yeah, it's interesting. I like the gimmick. I'm disappointed that I don't think that we will
Welcome,
see.
call.
Yeah, exactly. Welcome, core. Yes. It it um it, it's disappointing that I don't think we'll receive a revival of the American Badass, even for a one night thing. Um, I just don't necessarily. I mean, I don't know why you wouldn't capitalize on that. Um, why you wouldn't just want to go ahead and I mean, if you're already doing this in MSG, if you're doing it in Saudi Arabia, if you're doing it in Australia, why don't you go ahead and let this guy relive one of his gimmicks? I mean, he's only had two his entire
Yeah.
career, so why don't you let him live one of the only 50% of it? I just didn't get that. To the point D Jose was making about him living the gimmick, living the character. I thought that was interesting, saying he always wore black and all that. I thought that
Yeah.
was really cool. There's a moment in the fifth episode that I'll bring up that I thought was really telling. I thought was that a lot of people could relate to. Um, and then in this episode specifically, one that we haven't brought up is they brought up the relationships of um, Taker and everybody in the back and how they respect him and how they've gotten to know him and everything. And one really eye-opening excerpt was from Mick Foley, and he said, just talking about his relationship with the Undertaker and his work ethic. He says, "I haven't called him Mark in 20 years. It's safe to
Yeah.
say I know less about him as a human being than I did 28 years ago." And he added on to that, he said, "And I like it that way."
Yeah.
So, I mean, obviously, this is something that 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 he is, this is a life that he has chosen, most obviously, but it's a life that he has chosen to live to the absolute maximum effort and maximum just output that you can. You can't live the life more than the Undertaker. You can't
Yeah.
do
If
it.
you're talking kayfabe, you're going to see a picture of the Undertaker in there.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
You're
That's
you're gonna see. I mean, before '97, you're gonna see Bret Hart. You're gonna see the Undertaker. You're gonna see,
Yep.
Harley Race, all them. Yeah.
Just talking kayfabe, before I knew wrestling was staged, I remember seeing the Undertaker being in awe of this man, like scared as fucking shit. And then I would look at the WWE magazine, and there he is posing in an Undertaker t-shirt with his hat on and stuff, with all his white makeup and his glove and his big grey
hmm
gloves.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And it's you don't know what to make of it, yeah, because what the fuck is he doing posing in a
hmm
goddamn t-shirt, this monster amongst men?
hmm Yeah,
For a
yeah.
magazine, this made no sense to me. I couldn't
Yep.
comprehend it.
No, yeah, no, that makes total sense.
Oh god. Anyway,
Yeah,
those were the
yeah. No.
days. This was his first stint of Undertaker, by the way, back in the day.
Yeah,
Yeah. Way,
'91.
Yeah,
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 yeah.
definitely. Okay. Do we have any final thoughts? I mean, we spent about 20 minutes on episode 4. Do we have any final thoughts on episode 4
I
or
think
anything that we didn't mention?
match with Goldberg, I think I'm going to talk about that, kind of just going to sort of kind of the end because we've spent like 20 minutes on it. The match with Goldberg, that spot, the brainbuster spot, that scared the fuck out of me seeing that happen.
Everyone,
No,
everyone.
actually, you know what? For me, I thought Undertaker's tombstone on Goldberg was
That
much
was scary
worse.
too.
That was much worse, man.
because he
You
dropped
know
it
what I mean?
right on his head.
Because I could see how Taker's what was the jackhammer slam fucked up, but I did
Yes.
notice that Taker was okay. But Undertaker fucking put Goldberg on his head, and he'd already had his head busted open. I was
Yep.
so scared for
Yep.
Goldberg after that. I thought he might have killed him in all that heat as well. You don't understand all that humidity as well. You know,
Yeah, it's
Jesus
like 180
Christ.
degrees down
Yeah.
there.
Oh my
Yeah.
God. And he's in his 50s and all that shit. You
Both
know
of
what I
them
mean? Yeah.
by an age of like 105.
Yeah, but Undertaker wasn't in bad shape. He almost got in bad shape. He almost hurt himself, but
Yeah.
Undertaker was fine. But Goldberg cut his head and had a terrible tombstone put on him. And I think
And
people give Undertaker a pass on that because as
yep.
much as that fucking thing was bad on him, he shouldn't have done a tombstone like that on a man who'd already cut his head.
Yep. And then the match with Roman Reigns versus Drew McIntyre and Shane McMahon. Taker actually looked good if you put him in short matches. If you could have Taker work short matches, he actually looked like the best he had in years, probably since the end of an era match against Triple H. He looked really good in that match. And I thought that episode 4, it may not have been the best, but I thought it was pretty good.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I thought episode 4 was really good. I didn't think it was the best episode of the series, but I definitely thought it was pretty good. I'd venture to say one of the top 2.
Yeah.
I honestly thought that the Goldberg match was in episode 3, so I didn't bring it up. Yeah, that was a travesty. That was just, I mean, that could have killed 2 people. That literally could have killed 2 people in in the middle of international television.
Goldberg
I
was fucked.
I mean, I don't understand how you can say that you're protecting your superstars and you let that man continue after that. I mean, he literally ran himself into a pole like
Yeah.
he was a high school football star losing at halftime into his locker. I mean,
Yep.
my God. Get the man some. I mean, just get the man some milk. Do what you got to do. You know, make sure he's all right.
What concerned me was that Goldberg is not known to go the distance. So for a
No,
guy who's
no.
already injured himself big time, I thought,
Yeah,
fuck.
This
I really
guy,
thought,
this guy was
fuck.
a liability. This guy was a liability in his 30s, let alone
Yeah.
his 50s.
Let's
Yeah,
not
yeah.
forget, let's not forget the kick heard around the world that Bret fucking
Yeah,
Hart.
that's what I'm saying.
20
Yeah,
years. Yeah.
he was in his 30s. He was a professional athlete. He had just come out of the NFL to go to professional wrestling,
Yep.
and the guy ends one of the biggest of
Best
that
careers
era's.
of all time.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, absolutely, you could venture that way as well. Yeah,
Okay,
very.
and then
Yeah, I mean, just sorry, just to
so,
wrap up that Goldberg match. Yeah, just very
yeah.
distressing is the only word that I could say because it's not good. You can't laugh at it. I mean,
No,
obviously we
it
can
was
laugh
one of
at it
those
a little
where
bit
you
now, knowing that they're okay and knowing how
yeah.
much of a cock up it was. But we can't. You couldn't laugh at it at the time. You weren't happy to see it. You weren't angry. You were just saddened to see
It
these
made you
2
want to
legends. Yeah.
yeah, it made you want to cry, but not in like, oh, this is a finality kind of way. It made you
No, like
cry,
this is
please retire. Like it gave
yeah.
you that emotion where it was like, can you just please just fucking retire, please? Just to
Just
respect
a
your own health.
deterioration of
Yeah.
legacy and legend. I mean,
Yep.
it's just
I mean, I want to. I feel a bit gutted for Goldberg because it could have been a good match. I mean, the injury led to a bad match. I mean, but somebody
yes,
like Goldberg shouldn't be trying jackhammer slams on anybody
no,
who's bigger
No.
than him and weighs over 300 pounds, maybe even over 250. You
Yeah.
know, because it's just not worth it. Find a new finishing move, mate. You know, do a big boot in
to
the face.
to that point. I was listen. I think it was Brian Zane. One of his videos I was watching earlier today, and he made a great point. Um, excuse me, he made a great point that a lot of the more successful wrestlers, as they get older, they'll either change their finishing move or they'll adapt a completely new one because they were so just explosive and tearing and taxing on the body. Some of the examples that he gave was Randy Orton when he first came in WWE had a flying cross body what was his finisher, and then when they started to push him, obviously they changed to the RKO. Goldberg should have changed his finisher.
He has a spear.
Yeah, he
Yeah,
has the spear, and you can do the spear. You can do the spear.
Everyone's got the spear.
Yeah, that's a safe move. That's a safe move.
Some people the spear is the finishing move, and some people
Yeah.
it's a secondary move. It just depends who you
Well,
are.
well, if you can pull it off like Rhino or Edge, then yeah, it should be a finishing move. But if you're another person, then maybe not.
Yeah.
Yeah, flying. I meant crossbody off the top rope. Thank you for your your input there.
Yep.
But yeah, he would do a crossbody top rope. Obviously, Triple H's pedigree was adjusted. I don't know if that was just because of Marty Garner or because he was getting older. And then Jericho obviously had a couple. He doesn't really do his moonsault anymore. Doesn't
The lion
change
salt,
his.
you mean?
Yes, lion salt. I mean, same thing.
Just double checking. I never thought you. I thought you might have done the moonsault. I had no idea.
Yeah. And then obviously he had what was it, the Lion Tamer? What was it before the yeah, exactly. So he put like the knee, yeah, he put the knee on the head. And so obviously that's a little bit different. And that was a good point that I thought that should be made. And one that isn't really followed today if you watch modern stuff. But yeah, that was about it on that. Terrible match and just saddened to see all of those yeah.
So episode 5.
Yep, picking up at Extreme Rules 2019. Yeah, where Taker was like, "Yeah, I feel really, really good about this match." Which he looked good. If you keep Taker in short matches where he doesn't have to do much of the work, it works because he's got
matches.
Carry him.
Yeah, and as we that's one thing that we should say. As we saw at the end of the video, he had a great match that I had never seen. What was it with McMahon, Shane McMahon? Obviously, imagine if Vince was in the ring, Shane McMahon and Drew McIntyre versus Reigns and Taker. And I mean, from the highlights, I mean, he looked great. He was pulling off moves, doing choke slams, going outside the ring. He wasn't gassed. He had energy left.
Keep him in there short doses. Yeah, it could work for Undertaker. And he was like, "Vince, that's it."
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Alrighty. I think that's a good stopping point on 4. All right, let's go into 5. Any opening thoughts on 5?
I thought
we said Extreme Rules, no?
Yeah, Extreme Rules, because that's where it kind of.
Oh, it was at Extreme Rules. Yes, that match.
Mm-hmm. It kind of ends there and then picks up with Taker being like, "Yeah, now I'm done. I'm content with that match." Vince would still do a match if it meant a 0.1 in the ratings. Yeah, he would.
He would do it. Yeah.
He would.
It would make them be from the third worst Raw of all time to the 6th worst Raw of all time. So that's improvement.
Yeah. I don't know how much of an improvement, but an improvement. But I thought that the opening
I would watch.
I was pretty cool with Taker being like, "Yeah, I'm done now. I'm content. I just want to go home. I want to play with my kids and, enjoy time with my wife, because that's all he really wants to do. He's getting older. He was, I think, 54 at the time when they taped that portion of the episode.
Mm-hmm.
And it was good to see Taker content in the beginning of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Zam?
Yeah, pretty much what Jose said. I didn't get much out of it for that I didn't already know. I knew. I mean, for me, it was just like he said all this shit, but he's gonna fight AJ Styles, so it just didn't really sync with me, which is why I'm not really saying much because all this shit he says, but we know down the line it's not going to be the case.
The end too. Yeah.
Yeah. So
in regard to, we could jump there if we want to.
I'm just. We can pick up things. Maybe I have some certain things that slip my mind, but for now, regarding how he feels, it's just irrelevant. At that particular stage, it's just irrelevant, isn't it? So.
I mean, yeah, I didn't even have as much as a problem with the match itself or AJ specifically being in the match. I really didn't mind that. They had a great match. It worked out well.
Straight to the match.
Well, no, you were just yeah. I thought you had brought it up, so I mean, I
No,
was
I mean,
gonna.
I just brought up the fact that however he felt about retiring then, it
Mhm.
doesn't matter because he didn't. He still had a match at down the line.
Oh, I
It
apologize.
led
I
it
misinterpreted
led
what
to
you
a
were saying.
match
Yeah, I got you.
to
I
AJ
got
Styles.
you.
That's
I
what I'm
got
saying.
you.
So
I got you.
when Jose brought all of this up, I thought to myself, you know what? I don't remember this, and probably because I don't remember this, is because
Mhm.
it didn't sync with me because like
Mhm.
I said, it led to that.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. No, fair enough.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. My thoughts on that. I mean, just it was a general, overall good episode. Um, I didn't necessarily know about the about how much I mean obviously there's travel involved, but I guess I really didn't understand how much work was involved in these cinematic matches. And one thing I thought was eye opening was him trying to describe how difficult it is to stop and start. On top of the fact that he's only wrestling like one match a year, and he's not that fresh and everything. Um,
Yep.
there was one segment in in the episode where he's training and he literally starts having a nosebleed while he's training.
Hmm.
Mm.
Um, so I mean, obviously, you're starting from quite the square one. So it was just interesting to see through that process. Um, I thought it was interesting him describing what he went through with the loss of his brother, and that I didn't know about that, and that's obviously got to be something tough to deal with.
So close to WrestleMania as well,
Yeah.
like a couple
Well,
of
yeah,
days.
and that's what I mean. Like, obviously, a death in the family is going to affect anybody, but the fact that it happened while he was filming the match and while he was having to work, and another aspect that was brought into the documentary is that, I mean, he's the fucking Undertaker. He's gonna be. I mean, it's a boneyard match. You're literally
Yep.
burying someone alive. You're going to be by gravestones and caskets and just morbid, just not very, I mean, just melancholic in ambiance. And on top of
Mhm.
with your family member dying, your sibling dying, I mean, I don't think that I could personally be able to do that, especially the day after. I mean, that
No.
is just an incredible amount of mental fortitude and work ethic to push through that and
Yeah.
be able
Mental.
to do it at such an extent.
Yeah, because physically, I could tell Taker. You could see it in him when they were filming it, like how he was standing there. He was kind of struggling physically.
Oh yeah.
All that shit weigh on you mentally too. You know, your brother dies like a day or two before, and then you find out about it while you're
The
going to
drive
the thing,
home. Yeah.
at the thing, and you know you have to run through all these spots, and they had to renovate everything and set up the tombstones and all that other shit. It was crazy how they laid this out. It was like Triple H was like, "What the fuck is a boneyard match?" And Taker and AJ looked at him like, "You got to figure that out. This is your
Yeah,
job."
yeah, exactly. We don't know. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, that's
No,
definitely.
like a match like this. I mean, I'm very torn on this because I don't really have a problem with Undertaker having his final match as a boneyard match, a cinematic match. It's actually different for
Mm-hmm.
someone as from because there's legendary wrestlers of all types, and this particular one ends off like this. But against someone like AJ Styles, it needs to be in the ring. I don't think you're doing
Mhm.
this match a service with AJ as your opponent. He needs somebody of a similar stature to him, like maybe back in the day, if it was someone like Sid Justice, for argument's sake, this match would be great. You know, because they're two very similar guys with a similar sort of background, and this works for both of them. But
Yeah.
this, I felt AJ felt wrong. You know, that's why he needs all the backup and shit like that. And he didn't feel this match belongs in the ring and with these two particular wrestlers, and you never really got to see the wrestling that these two guys would give us if they had it in the ring. That was my only issue with it, but it's unfortunate that it couldn't be helped because
Mhm.
of
Mm.
COVID.
The
So
match,
Yeah.
the match had already been promoted and already been advertised, and Vince is very strongly against. It's funny
Vince
considering he
ain't
changes
shit.
no, he's very committed to don't promote matches that you don't intend on fulfilling. And
Yep.
it's an
Unless
ironic philosophy to have considering how often he changes his house shows. But on his main stuff, especially his baby WrestleMania, he does have that sentiment.
yeah.
couldn't they have just wrestled in the ring? Like they
Absolutely,
did
yeah,
with all,
yeah,
you couldn't
yeah.
it just wrestle in the ring like I
I
mean
don't I
it would have
don't
been
know
for
if
an
it would
audience,
have.
but
I'm not gonna lie. I think that in this situation, would I have preferred to have them just delay the fucking event and have it, when we can have people? That would have been great. But Father Time is undefeated. He is continuously using his efforts on Undertaker. And if it had to be without any fans, I would rather them do a cinematic match like the Boneyard match and pass that off for what it is than bullshit me like they did with, I mean, and obviously no one fell for it, but bullshit us like they did with Orton and Edge, saying that it's the
Yeah,
greatest wrestling match ever and piping in crowd noise like this is awesome and holy shit when literally people aren't even moving their fucking mouths and you can tell that
yep,
it's
they're
fake
standing
and
there.
it takes you away from the willful suspension of disbelief. You know,
Mhm.
that's just if you had to do it this way, I think the Boneyard match is better. But I'm glad
Yeah,
that you brought that up because is there any gripes that we had with the last match being a cinematic match, or is there any gripes that we have with cinematic matches in general? And just finally, as another wrap up question, is it fair to compare cinematic matches to traditional matches, or are they apples to oranges? Is it not available for comparison due to re-edits and such like that?
it
I'll
just
get
yeah. I think it just depends on the type of match you're going to have for cinematic matches. That's
Hmm.
kind of my view. Like for Undertaker, this shit works because it's the Undertaker, and I love the build up to AJ versus Undertaker because that was the last time we got to see Mark, first and only time, and kind of last time too, for now, that we'll get to see Mark Calloway, the American Badass, and the Dead Man all rolled into one. I thought that was fucking perfect. I'm like, this is how the Undertaker should have been ever since he came back in 2004. I would have kept
Hmm.
Taker just like that, like talking shit, because he was great at that. When he's sitting there talking shit to AJ, like being like, "Yeah, here's the deal. Your move sucks. My wife did this move better than you can do it now."
Hmm.
You know,
Hmm.
I was like,
Yeah, it
"Fuck,
was.
this is the Undertaker I love. This is the Undertaker I
Yeah,
love
and
to see."
one one that I got when he was talking about the American Badass gimmick. I think it was this episode. It was some promo, and this is he's in his motorcycle outfit, and he says, "I may not dress like Satan, but I'm still down with the devil, and I will go medieval on your ass." I mean, like what a
that was
line, man!
good. I like that one.
What a line!
But by the way, regarding cinematic matches, comparing it to regular matches, I rather compare cinematic matches to cinematic matches because
Yeah.
I genuinely can't. I
Yep.
genuinely can't. They're just two different things. One's
Hmm.
edited to fuck. One's happening in front of a live audience, live on television. And we missed a lot. Like, for instance, AJ getting involved in this match, um, and all the things that led to this match was very interesting. I mean,
Hmm.
apparently he got ribbed, saying that he wasn't going to be in it, and then
I love that. I love that.
but
It's so good.
it's just that, but what AJ did with his promo changed the Undertaker. I mean, I never realized this. AJ's promo made Undertaker have to change his gimmick because he said, "Look,
Mhm.
I can't come out there looking like the fucking dead man trying to defend
No,
my life here
no, no.
whilst not
You
being
gotta
a
look
bull."
real. Yeah.
If I talk like myself as the dead man, I'm going to look like a fucking idiot. So I've got
Yep.
to be myself and talk, and then I can talk as myself, which is why he ended up creating the hybrid. I think any for probably by the sounds of things for Calloway, he probably wanted any excuse just to fucking no longer do the fucking eyeliner again.
I wouldn't blame him. We joked about that in the
Hmm.
documentary too on
Yeah,
episode
I
11.
know.
Like he was
Yeah.
like,
Yes, that was another. That was another. And
his dad
and
was,
I.
"You gave up
Mhm.
basketball for this shit just to put eyeliner on and go out."
Oh yeah, and going through all of it, you say so. Wait, you're gonna give up a college education
Yep.
and for free, and all you got to do is play basketball? Yes, sir.
Yep.
And him talking. He's in MSG or wherever. He takes his dad to the arena, and he's watching him. He's watching him, and he's putting on his makeup or whatever, and he just
Yep.
shakes his head. And I mean, I feel like that's that's a sentiment or an emotional thing that all men can that all men can relate to who have had
Yep.
fathers in their life. That you just get that shake of disapproval, and you just
Yep.
know
We've all
that
been there where it's just like,
while they support you, they just look at you and say, "What the hell are you doing with yourself?"
yep.
No,
Now,
but go ahead.
I was about to say, like, where does Undertaker now go from here?
Now that
Oh,
we're
yeah.
okay, want to just get into the match or want to just get to the end?
In,
Now that
in reference to in reference to what aspect? In reference to post match or during the during the build up, or how do you refer to that, Sam?
Well, I mean, he after he won the match,
okay, now
I think
Okay. One
he
thing that we'll get into that. Fair enough. One thing that I did want to say though is that you said you were when he came back in '07 as a dead man, or not in '07, but around that time when he started. Yeah, he came back in '04, but Sam had mentioned maybe he didn't mention '07, but he mentioned a time frame when where he came back, he just kept winning. He didn't put anybody over. He didn't really do anything to develop talent. And it was interesting because I mean, obviously, as someone who takes the business seriously, he's an old timer, and I mean, I'm almost certain he's even said like he wants to go out on his back. He wants to build a superstar, and I mean, I don't know if it's complacency or not nepotism, but just an old boys club, or if it's just lack of awareness. But I don't understand how you can pick AJ Styles for your last match. If that's truly what you believe that you want to do, and that's the philosophy that you have, I don't understand how you pick literally probably the most highly, other than all the NXT people that the internet love, probably the most highly respected wrestler in that company on the main roster by the internet, and you pick him to go to have Taker in his last match. And would it be great for a young superstar to lose to Taker? No, it'd be a lot better if they could fucking eliminate them and retire him, like Roman Reigns was going to. But even
yeah,
with Roman Reigns, he was already over. Why are you not using the greatest legend in wrestling that you've had in the last 30 years? A literal living legend. Not like a great wrestler like HBK or Edge or Bret Hart or Triple H. This is a mainstream legend. When you say The Undertaker, people know what you're talking about, whether they watch wrestling or not, and they dropped the ball. They did it with the invasion angle, and I believe that they've done it with this as well. You could have made a superstar regardless of how you booked him just by putting him in that match, let alone if you book him to win the match. And
yep.
they wasted it on a guy who was already made. And
Uh,
that really
Randy
infuriated me.
Orton should have got it.
yeah,
Obviously,
Orton
CM
should
Punk
have
should have
gotten
got
like,
it.
yep,
You know,
got
Oh, I
those
didn't even mean about the streak. I just mean about like this match specifically. Just even this match specifically.
yeah, I agree.
You're telling me that a guy like I mean I don't know the roster that well, but you're telling me like a guy like I mean shit, even Kevin Owens. Kevin Owens is over, but he doesn't really have that big thing. You're telling me that a guy, if you want to put Finn Balor on the main roster again, like some young star, some late 20s, early 30s star that you have potential and that's signed to a contract and that you believe in, why the hell don't you put him in a
Well,
position where they
I
can win?
totally agree, and this is the
Oh, I
problem
know.
with
I'm just.
I agree
because
Yeah.
because this is the
here's
problem with
why.
no. If I could just get in,
Go ahead.
it's the problem with the dead man gimmick because at least with the badass
Yeah.
gimmick, yeah, he's so humanized. He can be beatable, and he did lose some. He lost matches. He lost a really good match at No Way Out against The Rock. You know, he lost matches. But when you're the dead man, you've got to maintain this persona, and unfortunately, because of that persona, people have
Do
to get
you?
buried,
Do you
literally.
really? But
No,
I mean,
I don't like the notion of it, which is why I don't like the gimmick because
mhm.
this is what they have to
I
maintain the image of it because if not, then it just becomes a joke gimmick. You know, it
Yep.
just
I
becomes a joke. No one respects it, but because the guy wins all the fucking time, they respect it. And I hate to say that it does work,
yeah.
but I don't like it. But I'd rather he be
I'll
humanized because they're just keeping the gimmick alive.
I'll keep this succinctly so D Jose can get his point. While I understand your philosophy, I don't agree that that's true. I don't feel like I mean the man is retiring. He has 25 years of precedent in history that people know his character. He has 25 years of character building. I don't think four losses on his way out or however many it is takes away from his character. I mean that's just
And
I mean I understand what you're saying. I just don't feel that as a fan base that you've watched somebody for 25 years and you know who he is, that you're gonna lose the disbelief or lose the persona of the dead man just because he loses.
Yeah, but he
I
became
just go
like I
ahead.
said, he became Hulk Hogan at that period because then he
He did,
became
yeah.
like a superstar level, like just coming
Yep.
in. I'm gonna flex my shit, win a
Mhm.
match, big boot, tombstone, all that shit. You know what I mean? It really is. That's what it became, and that's how it is now. It's just a dark version of Hulk Hogan.
But even Hogan put over Warrior. I mean, at least Hogan
Yeah,
did
and
that. I mean,
Undertaker's done the same, but they've done it just as few times. You know, I
yeah,
mean, compared to everybody else. You
yeah.
know,
I mean, yeah. To to let D Jose go on. I mean, yeah. I was extremely frustrated with that and the opportunity that they dropped.
Undertaker. I'm retired. No,
Mhm.
you ain't. No, you ain't. I'm not buying this. I'm retired bullshit for 1 fucking minute. There
the
is no way.
the
He's
only the only way that I'll believe it, and the only reason that I would lean to believe it is what he said. His brother just died. He has that tragic loss that he just realized, and I believe that now he truly, and especially with the Saudi Arabia match, I believe now he truly has that clarity
yep.
of not of understanding his mortality and
break the
understanding
glass,
that. I'm sorry.
break the glass in case of emergency. Grab yourself an
That's what I was
Undertaker.
going to bring
That,
up. That's what I was
that's
going to
what
bring up.
I totally forgot about that, and that's what I wanted to bring up. And
Okay,
that's the
go ahead.
thing, like, or basically every time they have an issue. I mean, actually, go on, Jose.
Yeah.
Talk about
Like,
it.
yeah. Talking about, like, oh, I'm retired. I'm content.
Oh, I mean,
For
yeah.
now,
Yeah.
for now, yes. You're retired. You're content. How many times have we heard Taker over the last 10 years say, like, oh, I'm retired? Because he's done this like 15 times over the last 10 years. Ever since like 2010, he's always telling Vince, oh, I'm done, I'm done, I'm done. And then Vince, crack. I need you. I need you. It's panic button time. We're going to see Taker back. I already know it. I'm calling complete and 100% bullshit on Undertaker retiring. The
I mean,
only
he's good.
the only way that I'll accept that he's retired is if we don't see Taker consecutively wrestle or wrestle consecutively for years.
Damn it.
That's the only way that I'll believe that he's retired. If we don't see Taker for 5 straight WrestleManias, then I'll believe it. Until then, I'm calling bullshit.
I mean, the guy's got a 25-year contract. He's gonna do.
Yeah,
I
he'll
mean,
be back.
he's gonna do something. I
Mm-hmm.
I do believe that he means it more than he ever has. But
Yeah,
I will say that the guy is 55. He. I mean, what is their max of? Like not that he wants to, but that he physically could
able to.
actually do. I mean,
Yep.
what does he have? A year, 2 years, three? Matt? I mean, I don't know. I don't
He's going
think
to be the.
WWE is gonna let him do it at 60.
They
I
let
mean,
Ric Flair wrestle at 60.
Ric
They let.
Flair is I believe that Ric Flair was in a little bit better shape and a little bit better physique as far as his body structure and everything, his size and
I
everything,
mean,
than Taker would be in 5 years. Taker
yeah,
looks
Taker,
defeated.
you
Taker
got to go.
looks defeated. And
You got
Taker
to look
doesn't
at
have the natural charisma of Flair. Not that he,
you got
well,
to look.
excuse me, not that he doesn't have the natural charisma, but his character does not lean into that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you got
he's not.
to
He's
look
not
at the
way.
injuries too.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to look at the
Not
list of
flamboyant.
injuries too. Taker is a permanently torn rotator cuff that can never be healed.
Mm-hmm.
That's how much he's given his body up to, and knowing that now he has like fucking titanium hips, and I think he's had both his knees replaced.
Mm-hmm.
If he hasn't, he will.
Watching him stretch out his fingers in whatever
Yeah,
episode that was, 1 or 2 or 3. My God,
yeah, early
I
on.
mean, I mean, the doctor was confused. A man that literally sees people in that condition every single day. He works at a hospital. The
He's
doctor
like,
was
"What
confused,
the
and
fuck are
Michelle
you here?"
McCool had to say he's trying to extend his hands. That's as far as
Yeah,
they go. I
yeah,
mean,
Dude,
that's
when he worked on his knee, for Christ's sake, he looked like he was in a mechanic
oh
shop.
God.
For
I mean,
fuck's sake, he
oh
only
yeah,
got
it
the
looked like
drills and he just
yeah,
I'm
looked
like,
like
what
they
the
had
fuck is this?
they had the
Is this
jack
Formula
up.
One?
I didn't know if
Yeah.
I didn't know if they were fucking like stonemasons or what it was, dude. They were. I mean, they were in there. They were doing some construction.
Fucking
but I'm
Taker's a
calling,
bionic man.
but I'm calling bullshit though. I'm like, he's gonna be back. There's no way because as I said, I don't remember what part I said this in, but in one of our previous podcasts, I said there is no such thing as 100% retirement in wrestling.
No.
Yeah, I agree.
It
I mean,
doesn't happen.
we watched Steve Austin walk out due to frustration, and he was back
Yep.
within what, like 4 or 5 years. He was doing an angle.
Yeah,
Yep.
If that.
the only thing that will stop you from wrestling is injury. That's the
Yep.
only thing, and even then that might not stop you. I mean, look what happened to
Yeah.
Edge. I always
Yeah.
thought it was stupid that he came back. I did not agree with it, especially as getting close
If
to his
you
50s. What, he's going to be fucking better? Please.
if
So
you
stupid.
if you have not seen the match that they had at Backlash, you should watch it. It's worth your time.
It's a good match.
It's not the greatest wrestling match ever, but
Yeah.
it is worth your time.
Yeah. But yeah,
Fair,
Taker
fair enough.
retiring, he ain't going nowhere. He'll come back to do something. I'm like, even if like he doesn't actively wrestle anymore, you're always going to be involved in the wrestling business. He
Oh,
will
of
come
course.
choke slam somebody. He will come back to tombstone
Yeah, but
somebody.
but that becomes a joke, after a
Yep.
while, like he's doing his character a disservice by being
By
that.
continuing to do
Yeah, like
I don't know though. I mean, I don't know if you could say that. I mean, is Steve Austin
pick
a
today.
joke now?
Yeah,
But
but
what I'm saying
Steve
is do
Austin
we
is
do?
he's injured. That's why he doesn't wrestle. He can't wrestle.
No, I
Undertaker
know.
could be doing it at retirement, and this is a different thing. Like he might
But
get
what
injured, and that's
I
the thing.
I I'm not saying that, but what I'm saying is the appeal and the people coming back. It's not like people have said, regardless of their physical ability and what they do in the ring. I mean, like people who come back regularly at WrestleMania. People aren't upset when Michaels comes back at WrestleMania. People aren't
Yep.
upset when Austin comes back at WrestleMania. People aren't upset. I mean, fuck. I listened to The Rock do a 30-minute promo to start
Like,
WrestleMania, and then
yeah.
I watched him fucking literally in the
These
match,
guys,
basically in the match for the main event, and I still enjoyed that. And he ruined the whole fucking show, basically.
yeah, but I already mentioned that Taker is a promo guy. He's shit compared to those guys. Those guys are
But
electric,
you don't.
absolutely electric.
You,
Undertaker doesn't go down the ring fucking a million miles per hour and starts fucking barking on the microphone. That's not what he's about.
what I'm
You know what I
saying
mean?
is you can use that persona in a different way. It doesn't have to be charismatic or whatever. You can use that in an enforcer. You can use that as a manager. You can use that as a bodyguard. However you want to use that.
Here's how I see
A
Undertaker.
referee, however you want to do it.
I see Taker being the guy that's going to be used to hype up feuds, not necessarily as the dead man, but I see him being like the vignette kind of guy, if that makes sense. That's how I see him. I see him being the kind of guy you can put him backstage in a chair talking about fucking.
Do
Let
you?
me think two names, like
Well,
maybe.
well.
I think
Here's the example that I'll use if you're experienced with it. AEW has Arn Anderson and Jake the Snake right now, and Jake the Snake is the manager of this big monster guy, and he basically does his promos for him. And I believe that you could do it like that.
you could, but the way I was talking about
I
it
don't
was
think
like,
that works for Undertaker. He's nobody's manager, dude.
Fair enough.
Yeah,
I mean, I feel like it could work in the right circumstance, but I understand what you're saying. It's
the
not
way
his
I'm talking
strongest suit.
about it is like, okay, how Taker would be is he would be among these other legends where you put him in a chair and then it's like, oh man, I'm here to see fucking Roman Reigns versus like
Oh
Finn
yeah, but
Balor.
they do that with
Oh,
everybody. That's no
they do.
different than what they do with anyone. That's not that's not worthy
I
for a
have more
special of the
respect.
Undertaker.
I have more respect
No,
for people like Stone Cold and The Rock and even HBK for only really being super bit part players, in the WWE because they've got other shit going now, and really that's what I want from Undertaker. You
Yeah.
know, that's really what I want from him. If anything, I think I don't want him to ever not be connected to the WWE because it's like The Rock. Just as soon as he went to Hollywood, you shouldn't forget your roots, and he hasn't. He does come back now and
no.
again. You know,
Yeah.
and not as much as he should. I mean, it's up to him. At least he does. At least he does something.
I
You
could see
know,
Taker at the very least too, because something we missed, him actually teaching the big guys like at the performance center. That was
yeah,
Yes, yeah.
I could
yeah,
see Taker definitely doing that. I'm like, if
Oh,
nothing,
for sure. He'll
yeah.
definitely have a backstage role, but I
yeah,
mean, yeah, no, he'll have a producer role or a
he'll be in
performance center
WWE.
role or somewhere. Oh yeah, he'll always be doing that kind of stuff. But I mean on screen. I mean, obviously,
screen.
you don't want him doing an angle like Bret Hart winning the fucking U.S. Championship. You're not going to do that.
Oh
But
God,
I
I just
believe that.
I forgot about that.
But I believe that you could involve him in angles and still use the legend and persona of the Undertaker because that is a priceless asset. It's an
As long
asset,
as he can,
and it should
as
be
long as
used.
he can be hybrid like he was during this match with AJ, I'm sold. I'm like, if he can be shit talking Taker, keep him that
But it's
way.
what I'm saying exactly.
Yep.
You're telling me that he can't be the old man, the old timer wrestler who
He
can
can't be
still
the shit.
throw, who can I'm not as good as I once was, but once as good as I'll ever be. I
Yep.
mean, you're telling me he can't be the advocate for one of these people. I don't buy it.
all I'm saying is that
I meant in
when you
general. I didn't mean you specifically, but yeah,
no
please.
sorry when Jose, when you mentioned earlier about him possibly coming back, this is the same with when it does happen to a lot of the wrestlers. Sometimes the best of wrestlers, yeah, is that you don't always end on a happy note. And I do
No.
believe if Undertaker keeps wrestling, it won't end happily. He'll have fucked up. You're not saying he would kill himself and stuff like that, but the matches will be below par. It won't be as good, won't be as fluid. He will look like an old man, heaving and breathing and getting around the ring.
He already
But
does.
he already does. I can't stand the way his hair looks right now. I think he should cut it. Get rid of the ponytail. It looks ridiculous. You know what I mean? Just keep the short back and sides. It just looks better. I'll keep it short, but it looks
I
terrible
liked
now.
it. I like at this age with all the sunken facial features and the wrinkles. Yeah, I think the shaved does him better.
Yep.
Exactly, stuff like that. So
I do feel that he shouldn't have shaved it as soon as he did. I felt like he could have rocked that long hair for like a couple more years than he did. But you're right. Now it's long gone. It's
what I'm
past.
saying is that if he keeps wrestling, I think we're just going to see
I think the one
deterioration,
thing we
and
can
he's
all
going to
agree
be
though is
unhappy.
the one
Here you
thing we
go.
can all agree though is this is the way to go out. It's like, what is left to prove? Why come back? I know the payday,
No.
loyalty to Vince, but why?
It's not about him. It's about what Vince wants.
Yeah, no, no,
Vince said,
he's
"Shit,
content.
we need a catalyst to
I
prove."
do.
I believe he's content.
I fully believe that he is at peace with his career and he does not want another match. But I also do not believe that he can tell that man no. He's not
Yeah,
going to tell him no, and
Michelle
he's
even
going to
said
ask
that.
again. He's
Yeah,
going to ask again.
Michelle even said that in episode 4. Your biggest weakness is you can't say no to Vince.
He's
You
too
are too
loyal.
loyal.
Exactly. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, that's his biggest fucking weakness is that he can't tell Vince.
He believes
No,
that because of the success that he has had and that he has been not awarded, but that he has earned with the help of Vince McMahon, that he is beholden to Vince McMahon, and that is not the case. He's a human being. Obviously, he feels differently and is entitled to his own philosophy on it, but he doesn't have to do anything.
No.
And this is where Vince needs to stop going back to the fucking well all the time.
Thank you.
You know what I mean? He needs to stop going back to the fucking well all the time. He should. He had the opportunities to create superstars, and he didn't like them because he didn't like them, regardless of the fans liking them. And
Yep.
all of these, and over the years of playing this game of not giving us what we want and only giving us what they want, we're at the stalemate. We're at a stalemate now.
It's the audience of one mentality. That shit's got to stop. We've been saying it for years. You're writing for an audience of one to please one man. And unfortunately, that man runs the fucking company.
It ain't going to stop until he owns less than 50% of the stock of WWE.
Yeah, it ain't going to stop.
Or his family, or however much he has or works. But obviously, he's the executive that is in control of that company.
Yeah, and until he's gone, ain't shit changing. I've been saying that for years. I'm like, until Vince is dead, not retired. Dead.
Well, I mean, we've been saying it since 08, 09. I mean, at least as long as we've known each other. Yeah. I mean, y'all maybe have said it before.
We've said, and Vince is turning 75 this year. That's the scariest fucking thing. I think he's going to be 75. And this
I don't want to see.
Making these decisions.
Yep. We're kind of getting off topic, but just to wrap that up. I mean, I don't want to see his ass on TV anymore.
I don't.
I love that character, and that is probably the most compelling and the most. I mean, if you're telling me a rating grab, don't give me Chris Jericho, don't give me HBK, don't give me Taker, don't give me Hogan, don't give me Cena. Give me a vintage fucking McMahon promo or just a McMahon angle.
Yeah.
and that is something that, at least nostalgia wise, that I
He won't retire either, by the way, because Vince
No,
McMahon, I think Vince
no.
McMahon will
He's a
never
workaholic.
retire. He's a worker. It's not just that, but this is the same. Like this is like regarding Undertaker, we'll go back to him. Even if he retires from wrestling, he will still keep working. You know what I mean? Just in different capacities. Even
Yeah.
if it's not WWE, he will still
But no,
find work.
he won't. He's never going to retire. No.
But
I wouldn't even consider that. I don't think he's going to retire from WWE. I think he's going to have a heart attack in
I'm
front of
just
that fucking T-Rex fossil, and they're going to have to cart him out on the gurney.
before I forget
That's
my
how that's
thought.
going to go down.
Before I forget my thought, though, is that I do believe that if Vince McMahon retires from the WWE and just lets his family take over, it will kill him. You know, it will immediately kill him. Whilst he's working, he's staying alive. The moment he doesn't have
He
work
has
anymore,
Yeah, I can
yeah,
understand. He has
yeah,
purpose. Yeah.
yeah, he has
I'm pretty much
purpose. The
fucking
moment he
convinced.
doesn't want to lose that.
I'm pretty
Yeah,
much fucking convinced that Vince is like on a battery or some shit. Like he's not human. Like this motherfucker runs on batteries somehow.
He's
Stay
he
alive.
he's
Crazy.
rich, man. He's probably injecting
He's-
unicorn blood and
Yep.
taking crushed wolf bone. I mean, the dude's
then-
probably got the most ridiculous supplements and workout plan on earth.
But okay, getting back to Undertaker, dude.
Yes. Yeah.
Say no, please, on behalf of all three of us. Please say no, please.
Yep.
I don't want you in a wheelchair. I really don't. Thank you for making me a fan. Without you, I wouldn't be watching wrestling because Taker's my favorite wrestler of all time. But I am saying this is it. There is no reason whatsoever to ever come back.
What I'll say in that is that it's not even that I want to see him come back. I just don't want to see him actively performing in a ring. And it's not even really the wrestler or the angles or his performances or accolades. It's more his character, and not the character as in his gimmick, but the character as in his integrity. He is I mean, one of the last people that I can imagine that take this business, I mean, not seriously, because all of them take it as their living, but like actually try to present it as not necessarily legitimate, but as something that you can genuinely believe in.
Yeah,
And
something you get invested into.
and yeah, exactly. He treats the audience as they want to be, not even as they want to be treated, but he treats the audience with respect, and he respects the business for what it is and not for what he wants it to be or what he wants to do or to fit him. And that's mainly the thing that I admire the most. I mean, the way that he's lived his gimmick, the way that he's been a locker room leader, the way that he's given insightful advice, the way that he's brought up talent. I mean, you had the moment where he shook hands with Cena. I mean, obviously we know that. I didn't know he did the same thing with Orton in the middle of a match. That was a really cool clip. That was a very cool clip to see in the middle of a match. They showed him, with Jeff Hardy raising his arm up and trying to make a star out of him.
Made the star out of him.
And Vince McMahon himself got frustrated at that. He says, "What are you doing? That wasn't in the script, blah, blah, blah. And we're trying to make the kid a star, aren't we?
Yeah.
That's the goal, isn't it? It is. It is.
Well,
yeah. I mean, you gonna milk out some more Undertaker things, and
yeah.
I mean, I don't even know Undertaker merch, but
I'm gonna ask y'all this before we wrap up. How long do y'all think Vince is gonna milk Undertaker? I say till at least Taker 65.
Well, I was just thinking, like, there are other legends he can refer to who are younger than the Undertaker who can still go. There's Triple H.
Yep.
There's The Rock. There's John Cena. Now he's in that category. There's Brock Lesnar. I'll put Edge that will eventually. I don't want him to wrestle anymore personally.
I mean that's fair. That's fair.
Yeah, but Brock Lesnar, he's in that
Randy
list
Orton's
now.
in that category now.
I don't know. I don't think so.
Randy Orton's too full time, in my opinion, to be in that category right now.
Yeah.
He's too overexposed to be in that category at the moment.
Yeah. He loses to.
Yeah, maybe Rey Mysterio.
Possibly. I think Rey Mysterio.
Possibly Mysterio.
Possibly Mysterio. But I don't really see him being like that that Rey Mysterio has been played as an underdog for such a long time, even though he's won fucking everything. You know, he gets played as an underdog all the fucking time. That he doesn't look like somebody that
I would.
they need to beat. Is somebody who he needs to beat, and that's how they've always played with Rey Mysterio. But with other guys, oh, look at The Rock, he's superstar, he's won everything. He's Hollywood, and look at Triple H, the man of the business, and stuff like that. Look at Brock Lesnar, the UFC guy. These are the legends he needs to work with,
Mhm.
for future superstars
But
to
to answer my
get rubber the
question,
green.
how long do you think Vince is going to run the Undertaker? Because you know he's going to keep running them.
Yeah, but he doesn't need. I don't know.
He
That's the
doesn't
thing.
need to.
But when I mentioned the guys I just mentioned, he
Yep.
doesn't need to. But it's unfortunate that he probably will, because Undertaker is the most in sync with the wrestling out of all of them.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, I mean,
Here's here's what I'll say on it. As far as the new legends and stuff, I don't understand why they don't try to scoop up some of these guys that were former legends that didn't pan out. You've had, excuse me, you've had it work out tremendously with Drew McIntyre after you've re-signed him. You have the likes, like we said, you have Mysterio, who's now like on his way out, but you have the likes of Ken Anderson, who's still in NWA doing his gimmick. I mean, he was a really good star for his time. He was over, and obviously he had circumstances that got him out. And you could just build other stars. But to answer D Jose's question is he's gonna do it until he's dead. He's not
Yeah.
gonna stop. He doesn't know anything else. He's stuck in his ways, and he doesn't care to learn or open his mind or his eyeballs or his ears to anything new or modern
no.
or any analytics or data other than his own ratings dropping like an anvil.
Yeah.
He's gonna do it until he's dead because he doesn't know any other way, and he doesn't know any
No.
other perspective, and he's not open-minded enough to try another perspective.
Yeah, and you want to
Case
know
in
the real
point, he just hired Bruce Pritchard to do both Raw and SmackDown.
Fucking
Yep.
merry-go-round of the same fuckers. Okay,
Yeah.
guys, can we wrap this
Yes,
up?
yep.
I'd
We
like to
we have
go.
we have exhausted all of this. Any final thoughts?
Great documentary. Go out of your way to see at least most of it. Definitely see part 5.
I would recommend everybody rewatch this documentary. You don't have to watch it all the way through, but watch it in a short period of time. Take all of it in and don't forget it. This is one thing that I absolutely hate about media at this stage right now is that it's very fragmented, just like how it was in TV. But I don't feel that documentaries work like that. I don't feel that the best way of a documentary is to fragment it into episodes and release them later. That's my only gripe with this. It's a great documentary. I'd put it up there with the Jordan documentary that just got done. Great stuff. Sam?
Yeah, excellent documentary. I think episode 3 was very WWE nostalgia-y, but
Mhm.
other than that, it was very good, very warts and all. I mean, Undertaker at times looked very unflattering, and just everything. I mean, like the first couple of episodes were fantastic. I mean, we saw a broken man trying to get
Yes.
up the mountain again.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it was fascinating seeing the way you walked, bow-legged, stuff like that. It was, to see the insight of this person, very interesting. I mean, like the amount of years he's got on that clock, it's the mileage, sorry, he's got on that clock is unreal, and you can see the toll it's taken on him. And I like the way they pulled back and they showed everything. I mean, right up to the fact that we found out. I mean, his brother died. I had no idea until that happened.
No.
And what told him, you
No.
could see he was about to burst into tears, and he was holding it back and stuff. I mean, they really went there. Everything, Michelle McCool's part of it, and all the other snippets that came from it, like the invention of Kane, which helped Glenn Jacobs have a career. So many things.
Propelled him into
Has
being
come.
a mayor of a county with
Yeah,
400,000 people.
yeah. So many things has come from this man. Regardless of how we think of him in various ways, the Undertaker has created a, a whole variety of things. He's a phenomenon, and he is in the top 5. The people you can name on one hand who have transcended wrestling.
Yep.
And when next time you mention the Undertaker, and people will say to you, "Oh, is he still wrestling?" And you can finally tell them, "You know what? He's finally fucking retired."
So we hope.
So we hope.
Thank you, Undertaker.
Yes.
I think that's a great note to end it on. Thank you, Undertaker, for Nerd Nation. I am Jericho, otherwise known as AJ. Joined with me, D Jose, and Dead Zan talking. We wish you a very good whatever portion of the day that you are watching this by, and have a great one.
Adios.
Adios.